Dragons, the immortal children of the time dragon Akatosh, the powerful race that once ruled over all Nirn, the beings who were and are eternal and unyielding. Dragons played a central role in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and since then people have been wondering whether or not dragons will return in future Elder Scrolls games. The answer to that is most likely yes. As most of you know, Alduin visited the burial sites of many dragons and resurrected them during the course of Skyrim. However, these burial sites are not at all restricted only to Skyrim. For example, the dragon Nathal-Illergis was killed in Hammerfell by a non-dragonborn human named Cyrus during the Second Era, and it's possible that Alduin resurrected Nathal-Illergis. Meaning that if the Elder Scrolls VI or a game beyond that took place in Hammerfell, we could fight against Nathal-Illergis and other dragons. In fact, given how active Alduin was in resurrecting dragons, it makes little sense for him to restrict his resurrections only to Skyrim. This notion is supported by the fact that there are dragons on Solstheim as confirmed by the Dragonborn DLC, and Solstheim is technically a part of Morrowind. Another rather obvious point is many dragons may have traveled to other parts of Tamriel after being resurrected in Skyrim. Considering that the Dragonborn has the power to permanently kill dragons, it's possible that many of them fled from Skyrim following the defeat of Alduin. What this means is pretty much no matter where the Elder Scrolls VI or future games beyond that take place, there will most likely be some amount of dragons present. Finally, we've actually encountered dragons in realms beyond the mortal realm, including places such as Apocrypha and the Soul Cairn. So we could encounter more dragons while traveling to other planes in future Elder Scrolls games. Now, all of this is good and well, but for the most part, it's rather trivial. Dragons simply appearing in a future game isn't all that mind-blowing an idea. What's far more interesting to consider is Akatosh and other forms of the Time God playing an important role in the Elder Scrolls VI and beyond. The Time God is the only figure aside from Lorkhan to appear in every Tamrielic religion. Auri-el, or Auri-el Time Dragon as the Bosmer call him, is the elven representation of the Time God and symbolizes the beginning of time. Akatosh, the supposed father of all dragons, is the Cyrodiilic representation of the Time God and symbolizes the linear or forward progression of time. Alduin is stated by many sources to be the Nordic representation of the Time God and symbolizes the end of time as the World Eater. Interestingly, this was contradicted in Skyrim when Alduin claimed he was the firstborn of Akatosh, because this would imply that Alduin and Akatosh are two separate entities as opposed to representations of the same figure in the Time God. My belief is that both are actually true, and Alduin was somehow speaking metaphorically when he said he was the firstborn of Akatosh. For those of you who say that's impossible, consider the following real-world religion example. In Christianity, Jesus Christ is the Son of the Father, but both are forms of God. This is a rather poor analogy when it comes to the details of Alduin and Akatosh's relationship, but hopefully it at least shows how this could be possible. Regardless, we already encountered Akatosh at the end of Oblivion's main quest, and in Skyrim we fought against Alduin, but we have yet to play a game in which Auri-el has a central role. It would be a rather interesting parallel for Bethesda to follow up a game centered on the figure that represents the end of time with a game centered on a figure that represents the beginning of time in Auri-el. This makes even more sense when you consider that Auri-el is an elven deity, and with hints at a second Great War, there's a high chance that the Elder Scrolls VI will take place in Valenwood or the Somerset Isles. As for how exactly Auri-el will appear and play a role in the Elder Scrolls VI, it's difficult to say. It could be a tangible appearance as we had with Akatosh and Alduin, or it could very well be similar to the role of Talos in Skyrim, who didn't actually make an appearance, but the plot revolved around him greatly. Another interesting idea to consider is the return of Alduin. This would surely not happen in the Elder Scrolls VI, but could happen at some point far in the future. In the Elder Scrolls universe, time is cyclic and each cycle is known as a kalpa. Alduin's role is literally to eat the world, so the current Kalpa will end and the next Kalpa will begin. However, the Alduin of our Kalpa is a failed World Eater, as he forsook his role as World Eater and instead chose to become a ruling being. Which begs the question, who will eat the world and bring the current Kalpa to an end? One theory is that Alduin will return, this time with the intention to truly eat the world, and there will be no Dragonborn to stop him. This is supported mainly by two pieces of evidence. First, the last Dragonborn didn't actually absorb Alduin's soul. Second, an interesting comment was made by Arngir after you kill Alduin. When the last Dragonborn asks if Alduin is truly dead, Arngir responds,
Perhaps, perhaps not. Dragons are not like normal mortal creatures, and Alduin is unique, even among dragon kind. He may be permitted to return at the end of time to fulfill his destiny as the World Eater. But that is for the gods to decide.
Certainly, Alduin's return is not confirmed, but at the very least it seems to be possible. One theory that's incredibly far-fetched is Alduin eating the world could start a new series of Elder Scrolls games that take place in the next Kalpa. If you believe the idea that Yokota is the past Kalpa, Tamriel is the current Kalpa, and Akavir is the future Kalpa, this could be the transition of the Elder Scrolls series from Tamriel to Akavir. But nonetheless, the point is that Alduin could return in a future part of the timeline. A less well-known form of Akatosh is Alkosh, the Dragon King of Cats and the Khajiit representation of the Time God. Far less is known about Alkosh than Akatosh, Auri-el, or Alduin, and I admittedly have fewer theories involving Alkosh. But in a general sense, Elsewhere is another option for the Elder Scrolls 6, and it's possible that Alkosh could have some sort of role for a game set in Elsewhere. Finally, and perhaps best of all, is the invasion of Tosh Raka in the Elder Scrolls 6 or beyond. Tosh Raka is a mysterious figure said to be Emperor of the Ka-Po Tun, a nation of tiger folk located in Akavir. He is said to have successfully transformed himself into a dragon, and is described as the largest dragon in the world, colored orange and black. It has been directly stated that Tosh Raka intends to invade Tamriel, and a future Elder Scrolls game could be centered upon this invasion. But perhaps most interesting of all is Tosh Raka's relation to Akatosh. The most obvious connection between the two is Tosh Raka transformed himself into a dragon. Additionally, Tosh Raka is very close to an anagram of Akatosh. If you reverse the name, it reads Rakatosh, and then removing the R reads Akatosh. This has led many to believe that Tosh Raka is an avatar of Akatosh, or perhaps even another form of the Time God entirely, in the same sense as Auri-el and Alkosh. Regardless of what the actual case is, Tosh Raka appears to have a connection to Akatosh. The book that describes Tosh Raka is called Mysterious Akavir, and has appeared in Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, so this could very well be foreshadowing a future plot involving Tosh Raka. Therefore, my theory is that the invasion of Tosh Raka and the Tiger Folk of Akavir will be the main conflict of a future Elder Scrolls game. Alright everyone, that's gonna do it for this video. I realize this was a lot of theory crafting, so I'd like to hear your feedback on whether or not you like this type of video. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.